Bitcoin has been in news for quite some time, and in 2021, it is creating new all-time highs in terms of its value against other fiat currencies. Experts and advocates are lining up for and against Bitcoin. Bitcoin advocates believe that the 2021 bull rally is different with the participation of institutional investors and that it's a sustainable long-term value creation that marks Bitcoin as the new digital gold and or the new global currency. There is an equal, if not more, experts on the other side also who believes that Bitcoin is nothing but a bubble and it can't sustain in the long term, neither as a currency nor an asset. This video is not getting into any of those views, but is an academic study of what Bitcoin has become after its 11 plus years of journey in comparison with what was envisaged by its creator Satoshi Nakamoto in the Bitcoin white paper. Bitcoin white paper can be accessed at the bitcoin.org website. This document is organized across 12 sections, highlighting the features of the Bitcoin platform as a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. Let's get into the Bitcoin white paper section by section to bring out its recommendations or principles and try to find if the original vision is still intact. Section 1, Introduction. E-commerce should not rely on intermediaries and must go above the inherent weakness in the trust-based model. Bitcoin was not able to achieve this. Intermediaries such as Amazon continue to rule e-commerce. Very few merchants allow Bitcoin as a payment mode. Ideal Satoshi vision to eliminate intermediaries can be realized only once Web3 or decentralized peer-to-peer internet becomes a reality. Second, traditional transaction model is costly due to mediation by intermediaries and their actions such as transaction reversal. Bitcoin has succeeded in being the immutable transaction recording platform. Next, merchants and customers need to trust each other as they reveal more info than what is required. Bitcoin has eliminated the need for sensitive info like card, CVV, etc. using its address-based payments, at least in limited cases where it's a payment mode. Merchants may collect info for identifying customers as per regulatory norms as applicable. Next, a certain percentage of fraud is considered acceptable in the traditional model. Bitcoin has succeeded in eliminating the intermediary weaknesses such as data hacks, breaches, etc. Frauds related to wallets, stolen keys, etc. that happen in the Bitcoin ecosystem is actually weakness of the participants than that of the network. Trust-based model must be eliminated by a trustless cryptographic proof-based model. Satoshi here sees Bitcoin as an enabler for Web3 internet, and Bitcoin in the Web2 model coexists with intermediaries and hence is limited in this context as of now. Next, once intermediaries vanish, sellers are safeguarded as transactions are irreversible on Bitcoin and buyers can use escrow mechanism for safeguarding their money. This again will be prevalent in Web3 internet, and as of now, it's a coexistence of Bitcoin and intermediaries continue to set policies and controls to safeguard buyers and sellers. And the last point is, Bitcoin will be safe as long as honest nodes control more CPU power in the network. Mining pools, institutions and whales, players with big concentrations, have weakened this construct as there is concentration of power now. Section 2, Transactions. Bitcoin exists through a chain of digital signatures and transfers monitored through the signatures. Bitcoin has successfully achieved this UTXO model through its existence. Next, double spending of coins must be prevented by making all transactions known to the network and its order agreed by majority of nodes. Bitcoin has successfully implemented this so far, but participants on average need to wait for around an hour, that is confirmation of 6 blocks, to achieve transaction finality without any faults. Section 3, Timestamp Server. Timestamping to ascertain sequence of transactions can be achieved using hash linkages between blocks of items across time. Bitcoin has successfully achieved this and created 674,163 blocks chained together so far at the time of creating this video. Section 4, Proof of Work. Decentralized nodes will work on a peer-to-peer basis to keep the network running. Except the initial years, the P2P node concept has been diluted by centralized exchanges that introduces a degree of centralization and hence vulnerability in the otherwise decentralized Bitcoin network. Second, decentralized nodes can trust each other based on a proof for an effort-intensive activity or hashing they have performed, which can be verified easily. Bitcoin has seamlessly worked based on proof of work so far. Next, proof of work gives fair representation in the network based on CPU rather than IP address based representation as in the normal internet. This also keeps the network intact as long as majority CPU power is with honest nodes. Bitcoin has kept this intact by keeping the proof of work consensus alive. This might change tomorrow as proof of work is energy inefficient. And the last point, proof of work also handles the innovations in hashing hardware by keeping a variable difficulty criteria. Bitcoin successfully varies the hash difficulty levels as per the computation power of the network. However, specialized mining hardware or ASIC machines have taken mining out of the hands of the common users. Section 5, Network. First point, all activities to keep the network operative such as transaction broadcasting, validation, block creation by miners based on proof of work, block broadcasting and block validation will work using peer-to-peer communications in the decentralized network. Bitcoin has been successful in maintaining this aspect except for two developments. First, concentration of miners into mining pools, and second, centralized exchanges running nodes on behalf of subscribers. Next, longest chain of block is considered valid by all nodes, thereby resolving any scenario of two versions of the next block. Bitcoin still works on this principle. However, the instances of fork has significantly come down. Third, transactions missing at certain nodes due to latency or outages is not a problem as long as the transaction gets included in a block. Hash linkage sequencing ensures that blocks are not missed. Bitcoin has succeeded in sequential hash stamping of the blocks. Section 6, Incentive. Mining reward serves as the incentive for the miners to create new blocks in an honest manner. This reward transaction will add a constant supply of coins which halves every 4 years to the network. Mining reward still serves as the strongest incentive and current reward is 6.25 Bitcoin per block. However, mining pools brings reward sharing which was not envisaged in the original construct. Second, mining rewards is envisaged to stop later and fees from transaction initiators are expected to be the incentive for the miners in the long term. Transaction fees starting near zero is not as strong an incentive as mining reward as it's relatively small. What happens once reward cease is to be seen once it happens in the long term future. Third, Bitcoin's incentive system is also defined in such a way that anyone owning a supercomputer will work for the network, that is, for Bitcoin rewards, rather than attacking the network which will give him the same Bitcoin only. This incentive system works fabulously well for Bitcoin and is one of the most innovative thought processes that makes Bitcoin one of its kind. Section 7, Reclaiming Disk Space. Satoshi designed a concise header along with the detailed body to tackle the storage needs of Bitcoin. This is illustrated mathematically as well. Merkle tree remains to be the best option to reduce the block space, at least for the transaction participant nodes. Current Bitcoin size, headers and bodies of all blocks for full nodes who validate or mine blocks is around 332 GB. Section 8, Simplified Payment Verification. Satoshi proposed the simple transaction participants to cooperate with full nodes in the network for their operations. Satoshi also proposes active participants to run full nodes so that they don't rely on any other fake nodes and risk their transactions. With the advent of centralized exchanges, even the most active traders and institutional players rely on the exchange for confirmation of their transactions. This is a risk pointed out by Satoshi early on. With the boom and buzz around Bitcoin becoming a global digital currency, it has become relatively easy to fake participants and such scams are not a fiction anymore. Section 9, Combining and Splitting Value. Satoshi has replicated the way we combine and change fiat currency for transactions in a digital method called unspent transaction output or UTXO. UTXOs provide lineage to previous UTXOs, ensuring integrity of the blockchain. UTXO-based inputs and outputs of transactions work perfect for Bitcoin. Section 10. Privacy. Traditional banking model achieves privacy by limiting information access to participants, facilitated by third-party intermediaries. To remove intermediaries, Satoshi had to make transaction information public to all. So he proposed using random, anonymous addresses to conceal identities. This hasn't worked exactly as planned by Satoshi, as the addresses and UTXOs are visible to all participants, and an analysis of the transfer across addresses can link the different addresses of a participant. This was an eventual flaw that Satoshi mentioned in his white paper too. Crypto exchanges are able to block and blacklist notorious addresses as well. Section 11. Calculations. Satoshi has illustrated mathematical calculations to show the impossibility of an attacker overtaking the honest chain of blocks to reverse its transactions. Satoshi's illustrations still hold true with Bitcoin network. Scams or breaches so far has only been in the social protocol layer or in the wallet weaknesses or the crypto exchange or participant vulnerabilities. Section 12. Conclusion. Satoshi concludes the paper with the electronic P2P network of strangers that works for the benefit of the network based on incentive models. Bitcoin platform is built mainly on the following assumptions. Among a large group of people, it's almost impossible to arrive at an agreement to distort the truth as long as some of them stand to lose. People will not be able to convolute truth if it's easy for others to verify and establish the truth. Suitable incentives can motivate some people in the network to work for network stability. With its existence over a decade, Bitcoin has proved that the network largely has achieved its original objective. The paper never discussed on need for larger transaction throughput for it to go fully mainstream. It has weaknesses introduced by the centralized participants and concentrations entering the system, who have come into the equation as the general public cannot easily move from the convenient centralized model of internet, also called Web 2, to the decentralized model envisaged by the likes of Satoshi, also called Web 3. Despite the arguments over whether Bitcoin is an asset or commodity or currency or a collectible, Satoshi has definitely paved the foundation for Web 3, the decentralized internet, where you will have sovereign rights over your data and control over your transactions.